Chapter 1. The Origin. In the winter of 1968, along the serene shores of the Red Sea, a peculiar object was discovered that would alter the course of supernatural and scientific exploration. This enigmatic entity, designated as SCP-093, immediately drew attention due to its unusual physical properties and mystifying behavior. SCP-093 was found to be a disc-shaped object, primarily red in color, and fashioned from a stone composite that closely resembled cinnabar. Measuring 7.62 centimeters in diameter, this disc was adorned with circular engravings and symbols of an unknown origin, etched 0.5 centimeters deep around its entire periphery. Deeper cuts, with a depth ranging from 1 to 1.5 centimeters, were also present, hinting at the object's potential historical or ritualistic significance. The disc was reported to fit comfortably in most palms, notwithstanding its coarse texture. However, what truly captured researchers' interest was the disc's eerie color-changing ability. Upon contact with a living individual, SCP-093 underwent a distinct color transformation. This hue alteration seemed to hinge on the particular individual in possession of the object, although the exact correlation was initially unknown. Research later indicated that the color changes could depend on the holder's regrets, though a concrete link is yet to be established conclusively. Remarkably, SCP-093 was also found to exhibit an extraordinary affinity towards mirror-like surfaces. If removed from a mirror and not held by a person, the object would actively seek out the nearest reflective surface. Displaying an uncanny ability to navigate, it would travel in the largest possible circle, quickly accumulating considerable speed. It was observed that, even in the presence of an obstacle, SCP-093 would utilize its momentum to puncture the hindrance, continuing on its course unabated. The final resting place of the object would invariably be a mirror-like surface, to which it would affix itself. This unique behavior revealed a bizarre contradiction. Despite the destructive force generated by SCP-093's high-speed movement, the object, as well as the mirror surface it eventually settled on, never showed signs of damage. How SCP-093 could defy the conventional laws of physics remains a mystery, adding to the growing enigma surrounding the object. Following its discovery, SCP-093 was carefully transported to the SCP Foundation for further study. As the SCP Foundation's main objective is to contain and study anomalous artifacts and entities that defy natural laws, SCP-093 became a fascinating subject of investigation, marking the beginning of an extraordinary journey into the unknown. Little did the SCP Foundation know that SCP-093 would prove to be far more than a simple, color-changing, mirror-seeking disk. With these preliminary observations and initial containment procedures, the Foundation embarked on an exploration into SCP-093's unknown properties, forever entwining their fates in the pursuit of the unexplained. This narrative represents the genesis of SCP-093's story, the first chapter of an enigma that continues to challenge our understanding of the world we inhabit. Chapter 2. The SCP Foundation and SCP-093. Upon its integration into the SCP Foundation's holdings, SCP-093 faced a series of stringent containment protocols, reflective of its intriguing and somewhat unsettling properties. The Foundation, with its overarching mission to secure, contain, and protect, designed a set of rigorous procedures to keep SCP-093 under control while minimizing the risk to personnel and the broader world. At all times, SCP-093 was to remain on a mirror, kept under continuous video surveillance to monitor its behavior and the potential changes it might exhibit. This unusual method of containment, dictated by the object's seemingly irresistible attraction to mirror-like surfaces, marked a unique approach within the Foundation's repertoire. Further fortifying this containment strategy was the requirement of stringent access control. Permission to enter SCP-093's containment area required explicit authorization, with the necessity of proper video recording and subject retrieval procedures in place. This condition underscored the Foundation's firm commitment to protecting its staff and preventing SCP-093 from exploiting any potential loopholes in its containment. As a rule, any attempt to use SCP-093 outside of an approved test was met with severe repercussions. This zero-tolerance policy extended to punitive actions that could include termination, demonstrating the SCP Foundation's unyielding seriousness about maintaining the integrity of their containment procedures. Documentation played a significant role in SCP-093's containment and testing procedures. SCP-093-T1, the testing document specifically created for SCP-093, outlined a structured testing process that aimed to understand the artifact more thoroughly. This document served as a guideline for staff interaction with SCP-093, a roadmap to guide them through their investigations while ensuring their safety. The Foundation's approach to SCP-093 was an exemplar of their dedication to understanding and containing the inexplicable. Their structured yet flexible methods created an environment that allowed for careful examination of SCP-093's properties, promoting scientific discovery while minimizing risks. Yet, their rigorous protocols underscored a crucial message. SCP-093 was not an object to be underestimated or misused. This structured methodology laid the groundwork for SCP-093's containment and study within the SCP Foundation. As the Foundation's personnel continued to explore SCP-093's complexities, their findings would only deepen the intrigue surrounding this unassuming red disk, driving them further into a labyrinth of enigma and wonder. Chapter 3. The Mysterious Properties of SCP-093. As the SCP Foundation delved deeper into the study of SCP-093, its eccentricities became all the more apparent. The stone composite disk, despite its physical simplicity, manifested an array of perplexing properties that perplexed even the Foundation's most brilliant minds. The most striking characteristic of SCP-093 was its peculiar attraction to mirror-like surfaces. If separated from a mirror and not held by a person, SCP-093 would engage in an almost sentient search for the nearest reflective surface. It would roll, creating the largest possible circle as it moved, gathering an inexplicably high speed. SCP-093's movements were characterized by a determined precision, its trajectory seemingly plotted to the most efficient path towards its target. Further confounding the Foundation's researchers was the lack of any discernible source of SCP-093's acceleration. The stone disk, despite its inert nature, built up a phenomenal speed, which it used to penetrate any obstacle in its path. It would stop only when it made contact with a mirror-like surface, regardless of the force or velocity of the impact. Strikingly, neither SCP-093 nor the mirror suffered any damage from these intense collisions. The mechanics behind this ability remained an enigma, further deepening the intrigue surrounding SCP-093. Perhaps the most mystifying aspect of SCP-093 was its color-changing property. When held by a living individual, the primarily red disk would alter its hue. The variety of colors it could take on was still under research, as the SCP Foundation sought to establish a definitive link. Their current hypothesis proposed a correlation between the color changes and the emotional burden of the holder, specifically the degree of regret they carried. Yet the complete logic behind these color variations remained elusive, a riddle yet to be fully decoded. SCP-093's speed and color changes painted a picture of a quasi-animate entity, responsive and adaptive to its environment and handler. These attributes, while mystifying, also presented dangerous possibilities, emphasizing the necessity of stringent containment measures. As the SCP Foundation persisted in its investigation, the layers of SCP-093's mystery continued to unfold, prompting a continuous quest for understanding amidst an ocean of questions. Chapter 4. The Unknown Origins. Even as the SCP Foundation unraveled more about SCP-093's behaviors and peculiarities, its origins remained shrouded in a thick mist of mystery. As if the anomalous red disk's properties weren't enough to induce bewilderment, the veil of uncertainty surrounding its provenance added another layer of intrigue. The primary obstacle in determining SCP-093's origin was the loss of its initial documentation. Records detailing SCP-093's discovery and retrieval were destroyed in a fire at the SCP Foundation's research facility on December 9, 1989. This unfortunate event, which eradicated crucial information about SCP-093, transformed an already enigmatic artifact into an even more impenetrable mystery. What little was known about SCP-093's origin stemmed from scant, fragmented details. The artifact had been found on the shore of the Red Sea on January 30th, 1968. On discovery, SCP-093 was noted to be emitting a low sigh and a dim blue gleam, hinting at some form of latent energy or sentience. Since then, its color had transformed into an orange-red hue, and it had developed an inexplicable attraction to mirror-like surfaces. The only other clue to SCP-093's past was a correlation observed between its color changes and certain events or individuals. For example, SCP-093 adopted a blue color at the time of the discovery of a deceased individual, identified as 1949834, at the Foundation's research facility. The connection between SCP-093 and this individual, if any, remains inconclusive. The destruction of SCP-093's recovery documents led to an unfortunate impasse in understanding its origin. Its inexplicable properties, coupled with its mysterious past, made SCP-093 a true enigma within the Foundation's inventory. The origin of SCP-093, much like the artifact itself, has thus remained elusive. Whether a product of nature, an artifact of an advanced civilization, or an enigma of a different kind entirely, SCP-093 continues to mystify the SCP Foundation. With each test and interaction, they inch closer to an understanding, peeling back the layers of this intriguing artifact, whose origins perhaps hold the key to unraveling its true purpose and potential. Chapter 5. Containment Testing, SCP-093 T1. As the SCP Foundation delved deeper into the study of SCP-093, a crucial aspect that demanded attention was its containment. The containment procedure's aim was not only to securely hold SCP-093, but also to decode its curious properties further. Testing document SCP-093-T1 was created to outline these conditions, setting a clear roadmap for the Foundation's researchers. Testing started with an evaluation of SCP-093's containment requirements. The previously assumed necessity of an expensive, silver-lined mirror was challenged by introducing a simpler, retail-grade mirror to SCP-093. Interestingly, SCP-093 remained inactive, behaving no differently than it did with the silver mirror. This discovery suggested that SCP-093 isn't selective about the quality or composition of the mirror it interacts with, but instead it simply reacts to reflective surfaces. The next phase of the test involved placing SCP-093 on a standard grade table. True to its nature, the artifact immediately started to exhibit its peculiarities. It flipped upright and began to roll, drawing an oval pattern across the table's surface. This behavior continued until a mirror was brought into proximity, drawing SCP-093 towards it with an almost magnetic pull. Intriguingly, when presented with two mirrors at either end of the table, SCP-093 gravitated towards the closer mirror, suggesting that distance, not the mirror type, influenced its behavior. The SCP Foundation also discovered SCP-093's unique ability to follow a mirror if it moved, gaining astonishing speed until reaching a point of impact without causing damage to either the mirror or itself. One accidental test, born out of a seemingly trivial debate among researchers, led to a startling discovery. When one of the staff members in possession of SCP-093 tripped and unintentionally touched it against a mirror, the individual moved into the mirror. This occurrence solidified the belief in SCP-093's interdimensional properties. Containment testing for SCP-093, thus, revealed vital information about its nature and behavior. SCP-093 demonstrated an uncanny attraction to mirrors, irrespective of their make or material. It also displayed the power to transport living beings through mirrors, revealing yet another facet of its enigmatic existence. In light of these findings, the SCP Foundation concluded that a simple mirror was enough to contain SCP-093, putting a pause on the containment testing. However, the knowledge they had gleaned opened the door to further human interaction tests, expanding the realm of SCP-093's mystery. Chapter 6. The Mirror Test, SCP-093-T2. Following the initial containment tests, the SCP Foundation's researchers shifted their focus to a more comprehensive understanding of SCP-093's interactions with mirrors, the central fixture of its containment. Thus, the Mirror Test, or SCP-093-T2, came into existence, setting a new stage in the investigation of this anomalous object. The protocols for SCP-093-T2 were meticulously designed to balance the pursuit of knowledge with the safety of the involved personnel. Subjects involved in the testing were equipped with a Class 3 buckle harness, firmly strapped to the chest and attached to a tension pulley system that allowed for up to 300 meters of movement. This length could be extended by adding additional spools, each capable of withstanding an applied force of 0.2 tons. In order to ensure the subjects were prepared for whatever SCP-093 might reveal, a field kit was provided. This kit included a wrist-mounted light source with a lifespan of 3 hours, and additional power sources for up to 6 more hours. Basic survival necessities such as water bottles, MREs, meals ready to eat, and granola bars were also part of the kit. A standard-issue Beretta 9mm firearm and a field knife were also included, the latter hidden to test the subject's resourcefulness. Subjects were also required to be attached to a video system, with the camera mounted on their head or shoulders. To ensure the continuity of the video feed, the device was cable-based, allowing for the same length of travel as the return system. Wireless cameras were deemed unreliable, reserved only for testing conditions where SCP-093's color was already known. With each new color presented by SCP-093, a wired feed was to be used. The following chapters delve deeper into the intricate labyrinth that is SCP-093, bringing to light more about the conducted mirror tests. The ensuing parts will attempt to shed light on the multitude of variables and outcomes that the researchers at the Foundation have observed, reflecting the full breadth and complexity of the phenomena associated with SCP-093. Chapter 7. Mirror Test 1, Color Blue. The subject for this trial was D-20384, a physically fit 34-year-old male with a history of murder and attempted suicide. He was cooperative throughout the testing process. Upon his handling, SCP-093 emitted a blue hue. The process began with him entering a mirror whilst holding SCP-093. Observers noticed that the mirror maintained an accurate reflection until the subject had entirely passed into it, after which it shifted to an outdoor landscape, deeply saturated in blue. A video feed recorded the following events. Upon activation, the camera surveyed an expansive, open field identical to the technician's observation, a lowland plain under an omnipresent blue overlay. There were no identifiable landmarks, only unending grass and weeds swaying in a gentle breeze. The subject progressed as instructed, traversing approximately 500 steps before reaching a barren, lifeless patch of land. This patch, approximately 300 steps ahead, contained a hole seemingly excavated with primitive, unidentified tools. Despite initial reluctance, the subject was instructed and agreed to descend into the hole. The descent was a slow, cautious affair, relying on the pulley system for control and the field kit's light source for illumination in the murky depths. Roughly 100 meters of descent later, the subject reached the bottom, an unremarkable span of dirt. As the subject navigated the passage, the blue tinge of the environment sparked confusion. He perceived no such color alteration from his perspective. Progressing further, The tunnel transformed from a dirt passage to a concrete enclosure with a discernible stench. Fluorescent ceiling lights, mostly functioning, lined the passage, which led to a series of doors, the seventh of which was blocked by rusty, generic metal shelving debris, indicating signs of past human activity. The subject examined each room, most of which were barren or locked, except one containing a makeshift cot and crates of old, dried-out food and water supplies, along with a book and clippings of unreadable articles. As the subject approached the book, an ear-piercing metallic screech overtook the audio feed for 3.5 seconds, with no discernible source or cause. The subject was then advised to investigate the blocked seventh door. The door, after repeated attempts, budged, revealing an oddly arranged room with a corkboard of articles, more cereal boxes, and what seemed like a human hand. The subject then left the room, once again complaining about the increasing stench. The subject gradually rotates the camera in a full circle, capturing the surroundings on film. As the lens pans across the terrain behind the subject, it picks up the presence of an eerie assembly of 37 distinct figures. Unlike the rest of the environment, they are not tinted with the predominant blue hue. Their facial features are indiscernible, contributing to the mounting anxiety within the control room. The subject, however, seems only mildly perturbed, pointing out the unusually angled trajectory of the cable instead. On further inspection, the subject tugs on the cable in his possession. It's tight, showing no signs of budging. Meanwhile, control initiates the pulley system, beginning to reel in the line. As the cable retracts rapidly, its movement through the grass becomes apparent further down its angled trajectory. A moment later, the line meets resistance, creating a twang-like sound as the cable recoils. The subject redirects the camera back along the length of the cable, which now seems to be letting out more slack slowly. Suddenly, all the slack is taken back, and the pulley system restarts its reeling process. The urgent request from control for the subject to retreat back along the cable's path is suddenly punctuated by horrifying screams picked up by the audio, betraying the subject's growing panic. The loud report of a pistol being fired 5 times fills the air, aimed at something unseen by the camera. Despite the chaotic events, control reports the visual of the subject hastening towards the point of origin. Curiously, the camera feed shows the cable disappearing into an airy point suspended in space. As the subject crosses this threshold, all of the cable is swiftly taken up by the pulley system, leaving the camera to film nothing but the ground beneath. Control notes that the mirror, the gateway back to the test chamber, took about 5 seconds to revert back to its normal reflective surface. Meanwhile, SCP-093 held on to its blue coloration for a duration of an hour after being retrieved from the subject. Upon the subject's return, control personnel reported seeing a colossal human entity, easily 50 times a normal person's size with short arms, pulling itself towards the mirror. Observers noted that the being appeared to have gunshot wounds on its otherwise smooth, featureless face. In conclusion, the subject returned with a newspaper article retrieved from the exploration site, the contents of which were immediately classified as data expunged. The contents of the newspaper, as well as the entire incident, raised many questions and heightened the enigma surrounding SCP-093. The disquieting appearance of the large humanoid entity, the surreal landscape on the other side of the mirror, the strange, undecipherable articles, and the sudden metallic screeching noise created a chilling atmosphere that seemed to toy with the norms of reality. Simultaneously, the unsettling behavior of SCP-093 during the test hinted at an alarming cognizance or influence over the mirror world. The test underscored the unpredictable and potentially dangerous nature of SCP-093, making it clear that each test could reveal darker, more profound mysteries than the last. The ramifications of this experiment shook the foundation of its understanding of SCP-093 and set the stage for subsequent tests. The exploration into the mirror world underlined SCP-093's unpredictable nature and its connection to this alternate reality. The cryptic details and unsettling discoveries of this test helped build a more complex picture of SCP-093, solidifying its status as a highly unpredictable and potentially dangerous anomaly. The eerie characteristics of the alternate world, the unexplainable beings, and SCP-093's own peculiar traits intensified the urgency to comprehend this SCP, setting the stage for the following tests. Chapter 8. Mirror Test 2. Color Green. The test subject was D54493, a 23-year-old woman with a physically average build. Her criminal record includes grand theft auto and second-degree murder of 2 children. Nevertheless, she exhibited a cooperative attitude during the SCP-093 testing. Holding SCP-093, the subject entered a mirror. The object emitted a green color, and the mirror's reflection changed to a verdant farmland landscape once the subject had completely crossed through it. This landscape closely mirrored the first test environment, only shifting in color saturation. The video feed captured the following scenes. The field was long abandoned, and a tattered scarecrow was its only notable feature. An empty farmhouse sat nearby with its basement shelter entrance visibly torn. A series of discarded clothes led down the basement stairs, belonging to a boy. The subject was visibly upset by this, which led to speculation that SCP-093 was somehow connecting her past to this environment. Despite initial distress, the subject explored the basement, revealing it was abandoned and featured a metal hatch. Opening it, she discovered a bunker that seemed ill-prepared for long-term habitation. There were skeletons of 3 individuals and a 6-shooter revolver with 3 spent casings. On the desk, a newspaper had been cut into pieces, some of which the subject recovered. Also, an oddly placed Ethernet jack was found, with a strange amber-like substance oozing from it. Exiting the bunker, the subject witnessed a disturbing sight: 2 colossal, featureless humanoid entities crawling in the distance. The beings, despite their size, seemed unaware of her presence. Their bodies ended abruptly at the torso, and their arms lengthened and shortened at will. After the creatures had moved out of sight, the subject entered the farmhouse from the cellar and discovered a dusty 1950s-style interior. In the master bedroom, several pieces of jewelry lay on the bed, which the subject was instructed to leave untouched. In a second bedroom, she found a shared space, seemingly for a boy and a girl. From the window, she could see a city about 40 kilometers away, surrounded by around 300 figures akin to the ones observed in the blue test. Yet the subject claimed to see none of these figures. The subject returned through the mirror after a loud groaning noise reverberated through the control room and the video feed. The mirror regained its reflective quality as soon as she relinquished SCP-093, signaling the end of the green test. The newspaper fragments obtained from this test were filed and designated as classified information. Subsequent investigations were set to continue with the violet test, where more mysteries of SCP-093 were to be unveiled. Chapter 9. Mirror Test 3, Color Violet. As the 9th chapter begins, we are introduced to D-84930, a male subject of 21 years with a violent past. He was selected for the 3rd mirror test, Color Violet. He held the mysterious SCP-093, which emitted a radiant violet light as he stepped through the mirror. The violet cityscape, akin to a modern downtown district, was hauntingly desolate, bereft of life, save for a few futuristic-looking cars strewn across the streets. As the subject ventured into this alien metropolis, he was encouraged by Control to inspect the vehicles closer. He obliged, albeit with evident reluctance, commenting on a rank-ass stank permeating from them. On close inspection, the interiors of 3 of the cars were filled entirely with an unusual brown substance. A 4th, however, appeared more recent, its insides immaculate. Driven by curiosity, the subject opened the unlocked doors of the clean car and climbed inside, shutting the doors behind him. His actions drew immediate admonishment from Control, reminding him that the robust cable functioning as his lifeline, although capable of withstanding a car door closing, would not be able to facilitate his recovery should he move the vehicle. In retort, the subject scanned the car's dashboard with his camera, demonstrating the absence of any recognizable controls, an implication of his inability to drive the car even if he desired to do so. While the control debated on the course of action in this vast city, an unexpected entity watched the subject from the outside, a fact that went unnoticed until the video footage was reviewed later. This sparked a sense of urgency, and a team of 4 armed personnel was dispatched through the mirror to assist the subject. After a tense confrontation with the subject about his non-cooperation, they managed to convince him to move towards a large, imposing building. It bore the name XEA Research Partners, Inc., and had open doors. Inside was a corporate-like lobby with an unattended reception desk, a powered PC terminal with a strange OS named Faithful OS, and 2 elevators. They rode the functional elevator up to the 114th floor, where they found an abandoned lounge. Looking through the windows gave a breathtaking view of the lifeless city below. They noted some of the buildings were marred by a strange brown growth, similar to the matter found inside the cars. Upon descending to the 74th floor, they found themselves in what seemed to be a doctor's office, eerily stuck in the year 1953. There were a series of patient files describing peculiar ailments, more closely related to personality flaws or incidents, rather than actual physical conditions. The subject started to panic as he noticed similar entities from previous tests surrounding him. The escort team failed to see these figures, reinforcing the theory that these entities were visible only to the holder of SCP-093. As the team moved back towards the entry point, they were accosted by one of the enormous humanoid creatures. It stretched its arm down towards them as they fled back through the mirror. One member of the team was left behind, with the camera catching the last moments of him being absorbed by the creature. His disappearance and the disconcerting findings within the city confirmed a disturbing reality. These creatures, it seemed, feasted upon living material. It was recommended that further interaction with these entities should be avoided. The bizarre encounters and the exploration of the violet-tinted city marked the end of the violet test, paving the way for the next stage, classified as the yellow test. Chapter 10. Mirror Test 4, Color, Yellow. The name of the dedicated doctor who stepped forward to conduct the yellow test remains redacted for confidentiality reasons. Nonetheless, his actions spoke louder than any name could. A stalwart researcher, he exhibited neither the criminal tendencies nor the psychological instabilities typically seen in the D-class subjects who were previously involved in the SCP-093 experiments. He had managed to instigate a unique interaction with SCP-093, causing it to turn a color unseen before, a pale and unsettling yellow. Upon presenting it to the mirror, the reflected vista transformed into a mundane, cubicle-filled office environment. Unlike his predecessors, the doctor had opted to utilize a wireless video system for the examination, bypassing the traditional pulley return system. His rationale was that previous tests had shown none of the horrifying torso-like creatures inside buildings, and he wagered that this exploration would not be an exception. As he stepped into the mirror, the camera switched on, tinting the feed in an otherworldly yellow shade. The alien office was organized with military precision, accommodating around 30 cubicles. At the far end, a separate office with frosted glass walls stood out from the rest. The etched name on the door read, Senior Manager, Stanley Millimitz. Inside the office, the doctor found a coffee cup with a dried, dark brown stain and a rock-hard donut. His attention was drawn to a file cabinet, from which he carefully selected several files. These blue files, distinguished from the yellow ones, seemed more important. He collected them for further investigation back in our world. One peculiar thing the doctor noticed was the absence of visible power outlets, despite the computers being operational. The PC inside the manager's office was logged in and running an operating system named Faithful OS, which emitted gentle hymn-like hums and angelic bell sounds in response to user interactions. Despite the intriguing setup, it offered little to no useful information. Having explored the office thoroughly, the doctor decided to venture further. He called for an elevator, noting the unusual number scheme, which ranged from -115 to 115. After a brief discussion with the control team, he chose to descend to the lowest level, -115. The descent was time-consuming and unnerving. At one point, the video feed showed 14 other figures appearing inside the elevator with the doctor. However, after a brief moment of static, the feed returned to normal, showing the doctor alone, seemingly undisturbed by the anomaly. Upon reaching floor -110, the doctor decided to pause his descent due to an increasing stench emanating from the lower levels. He found himself in an enclosed observation deck equipped with multiple PCs. All of them were active and running the same faithful OS. One particular PC was displaying a live feed of various locations within the building, including a room filled with broken tubes and the very observation deck the doctor was standing in. One of the feeds showed an enormous 6-story torso creature crawling in circles somewhere in the building. Further exploration of the PC revealed a printout with specific instructions guiding the doctor to a safe on floor 54. It provided a combination which the doctor decided to investigate. Ascending to floor 54, he found the described safe and, using the provided combination, discovered a notebook and a revolver, along with 24 rounds of ammunition. With the wealth of information gathered and the vast number of floors left unexplored, the decision was made to end the test. The doctor returned through the mirror entry point, and SCP-093 reverted to its original reflective state. The recovered items were catalogued and stored for further analysis. Despite the unusual occurrences during the test, the doctor appeared unscathed and mentally stable, having managed to navigate the alien world and return safely. The camera footage was shut off, the yellow hue fading away as the connection was severed. The invaluable data gathered from this test hinted at a rich yet sinister history of the world SCP-093 opened to. This exploration didn't feature the nightmarish creatures from previous ventures, but the office environment and the documents collected gave an unsettling insight into a seemingly ordered and controlled society. The blue files and the revolver were kept for further examination, their significance unknown, but potentially pivotal to understanding the world beyond the mirror. The faithful OS, the unusual building, all these pieces of the puzzle were to be investigated thoroughly to paint a clearer picture of the reality they were dealing with. Back at the SCP facility, the doctor was debriefed, and all findings were documented meticulously. The team tasked with analyzing the findings were left with more questions than answers, the chilling details of the yellow test sparking debates and theories. As SCP-093 returned to its dormant state, the researchers braced themselves for the next stage of testing, the red test. The anticipation was tinged with dread, as they could only speculate about the horrors they were yet to face. The mirror, while currently reflecting their own familiar faces, was a gateway to an abyss of the unknown, a stark reminder of the strangeness and danger that lurked in the most ordinary objects. Chapter 11. Mirror Test 5. Color Red. The next chapter in the story of SCP-093 took place under the ominous glow of a fierce red hue. This time, a service technician, whose name is redacted for security purposes, volunteered for the test. He'd managed to elicit this new color from SCP-093 and had been authorized to use the revolver, previously recovered from the yellow test. As the technician touched SCP-093 to the mirror, it generated a portal to an entirely different environment. The other side of the mirror revealed a world made of red stonework, without the customary color tinge observed in previous tests. On entering the mirror, the video feed sprang to life. The alien landscape was dominated by a gigantic, rotating, cylindrical pillar. It had numerous holes from which beams of white light occasionally shone, connecting to myriad SCP-093-like objects embedded in the room's wall. The room was cylindrical too, adorned with countless SCP-093 copies. Some sections were missing their SCP-093 replicas, with the entry point being one such section. Descending a ladder found on the room's floor, the technician found himself in an expansive room full of antiquated computer equipment. A large CRT monitor was present, flashing single words like clean, unclean, and lost. The room ended in a glass window overlooking tubes filled with blue liquid, with what appeared to be electrical current sporadically coursing over them. An interactive keyboard with various selection options sat by the window. After nearly 2 hours spent transcribing the information generated by each keyboard selection, video feed was lost unexpectedly. Contact with the technician was severed for approximately 1 minute and 48 seconds before the mirror portal re-established itself and he returned. The technician seemed physically well, but his demeanor was unusually subdued. However, the situation rapidly deteriorated during his debriefing. He suddenly began convulsing and displayed unexpected strength, managing to kill a debriefing staff member using the revolver. Even when shot, the technician didn't fall, prompting an armed team to neutralize him. Strangely, he didn't bleed when shot. Instead, he leaked a green-brown substance eerily similar to the solution seen in the containment tubes and material from Test 3. Following this incident, all SCP-093 tests were temporarily suspended. Meanwhile, a secondary tape recording device that had activated when the video feed was lost was found. Its contents, along with all other recovered materials, were classified as Level 4 and placed under review. These mysterious developments hinted at an even more complex puzzle behind SCP-093, requiring careful investigation and analysis. The tale of SCP-093 was far from over, with the revelations of the Red Test only adding to its enigma. Chapter 12. The Guilt Color Theory. As the investigations around SCP-093 advanced, an intriguing pattern began to emerge, hinting at a deeper layer of complexity to the object. The SCP Foundation researchers, accustomed to the unusual and the bizarre, began to notice a correlation between the hues SCP-093 assumed and the emotional states of those handling it. This led to the formation of the guilt color theory. According to this theory, SCP-093's color transformations were not random but seemed to reflect the conscious state of the person holding it, particularly their feelings of guilt. The researchers reached this hypothesis after meticulously analyzing numerous case studies and test results. In several documented instances, SCP-093 assumed a deep, somber shade when held by subjects harboring heavy feelings of remorse or guilt. Their confessions often unveiled past misdemeanors, transgressions, and actions that burdened their conscience. The change in SCP-093's color seemed to mirror their emotional turmoil, offering a tantalizing hint of an empathetic or sympathetic connection between SCP-093 and its handler. On the other end of the spectrum, when SCP-093 was held by subjects who displayed no outward signs of guilt, or who were devoid of such emotions due to various psychological conditions, it displayed an entirely different range of colors. These hues were usually lighter, giving the disk an almost serene appearance. To deepen their understanding of this relationship, researchers initiated a series of tests with subjects possessing varied emotional backgrounds. The experiment included subjects with a history of criminal activity, diagnosed psychopaths, and individuals with an apparent clear conscience. The results were strikingly consistent with the guilt color theory. SCP-093 assumed darker, more intense shades with subjects who possessed feelings of guilt, while it turned lighter with those devoid of guilt. The consistency of these observations across different subjects reinforced the validity of the guilt color theory. However, despite the evidence supporting the theory, many aspects remained enigmatic. The exact mechanism of how SCP-093 senses or reacts to the emotional state of the holder remains unknown. Also, it is yet to be deciphered whether different shades correspond to different types or intensities of guilt. While the guilt color theory brought significant insights into SCP-093's interactions with its human handlers, it also added new layers of complexity and mystery to SCP-093's study. The SCP Foundation continues its research, striving to unravel the full extent of SCP-093's extraordinary properties, marking the end of this phase of understanding but the beginning of an even deeper pursuit of knowledge. Chapter 13. The Unending Pursuit. As we reach the conclusion of our exploration into the SCP-093 saga, it becomes increasingly apparent that our understanding of this anomaly is not final, but rather an ongoing process. Each test, each theory, and every unexpected event with SCP-093 merely adds another piece to an intricate and ever-evolving puzzle. The guilt color theory stands as a milestone in this journey, representing a significant stride towards understanding SCP-093's connection with its human handlers. It opens a path for further exploration into the relationship between sentient beings and SCPs, and even suggests a possibility that certain SCPs could have a degree of emotional perception or empathy. But the story of SCP-093 is far from over. The unsolved mysteries of SCP-093 continue to pose complex challenges for researchers. The unexplained mechanism by which it reacts to guilt, the meaning of different shades it adopts, and the existence of other potential emotional triggers remain enigmatic. The enigma deepens with the mirror worlds, each reflecting a reality so drastically different from our own, yet hauntingly familiar in their depiction of humanity's virtues and vices. The aftermath of the Red test has raised further questions about the substance SCP-093 is made of and its properties. The green-brown substance that the service technician leaked, instead of blood, hints at an alteration at a biological level, warranting a whole new avenue of investigation. But the SCP Foundation's researchers are undeterred by these challenges. Driven by the pursuit of knowledge and understanding, they continue their tireless endeavors. Indeed, each encounter with SCP-093, whether through direct testing or theoretical exploration, adds another thread to the intricate tapestry of its narrative. As this story unfolds, it expands our comprehension of the universe and our place within it, shedding light on unexplored corners of reality and testing the boundaries of our understanding. In the face of such profound mystery and complexity, one thing remains certain. The story of SCP-093 is a testament to human curiosity and the unending quest for knowledge. It stands as a reminder that even in the face of the inexplicable and the unexplored, our capacity to seek, question, and understand prevails. It is this spirit of inquiry that guides the SCP Foundation and every researcher involved in these explorations. And so, our journey into the mirror continues, into the depths of the unknown, towards a future filled with discovery, understanding, and most importantly, unending curiosity. For it is in the unknown that the greatest adventures lie, in the shadows that the most revealing truths lurk, and in the mirror that we truly see ourselves.